It's 1910, and the Kaiser has appointed me to become the leading admiral of the German High Seas Fleet. In fact, not just of the High Seas Fleet, but of all German naval forces. Germany is a young country and is trying to find its place and to claim its place in Europe. And as such, we are obviously at odds with the established powers and empires. As Admiral, it will be my responsibility to ensure that the German fleets are ruling the seas and that our trade routes remain open, that our colonies are secure, and that our enemies will not get to our coasts. The very first thing we're going to have to do is to take a very brief look at the political climate. Reviewing the documents that I've received from our departments, the situation is very unsurprisingly such that we are not at very good terms with the British, the French, and the Russian Empire. The Japanese are not huge fans of us either. However, the Austro-Hungarians, our old allies, are somewhat in favor of us, but they are the only ones who are on our side as a new empire in the Great Game. Our economy doesn't look too bad, with 47 million Reichsmark, comparable to the French economy, but still behind Britain and the United States. In terms of fleets, our spies have reported that the British are currently fielding 9 battleships and 4 battlecruisers, as well as a large group of heavy cruisers, light cruisers, and destroyers. The French have 5 capital ships. The United States currently have 7. The Austro-Hungarians, as a very new and small navy, are not having an awful lot to contribute to any kind of armed conflict. Japan has 10 capital ships, so does the Russian Empire. The Chinese, actually with 11, have a relatively large force. We ourselves have 16 capital ships, all coming out of von Tirpitz's naval building program. The Spanish have a relatively small fleet, and the Italians are pretty powerful in the Mediterranean as well. Next up, we will have to review our fleet. Looking through the files that have been forwarded to me from the design bureau, we have currently 2 battleship designs, 1 battlecruiser design, 1 destroyer design, a heavy cruiser, and a light cruiser design that are part of our fleets. Let's begin with reviewing the Nassau class blueprints, and just to see what these relatively old ships are capable of. Nassau class battleships are displacing 21,000 tons with a maximum speed of 19 knots. They are built in a relatively sturdy manner with a sufficient amount of internal bulkheads, and have a very good range of over 17,000 kilometers. They're using coal-fired engines and powering a triple expansion steam engine. We have Krupp armor on the side, cemented, which is giving us a reasonable amount of protection, but these are older ships. Especially around auxiliary engines and similar things, there might be some modernization we can still do on these ships. In terms of armor, we've got a 300mm on the main belt, 140mm forward, and 130mm aft, with a deck armor of somewhere between 60 and 80mm. And we've got some inner belts and inner decks to protect the vitals of the ship. The guns themselves, the Nassaus are sporting 280mm guns in twin turrets. We've got 2 center lines and two on each side wing mounted, for a total broadside of 8 guns. Additionally, we've got 152mm casemate guns here in the sides, and we've got some 88mm dual-purpose guns scattered around the superstructure. All in all, the Nassaus are relatively sturdy ships a little bit outdated in terms of armor, and the gun caliber is on the low side, but they might serve us still as ships of the line for our battle fleet. The Deutschland class of battlecruisers, well, they are technically classified as battleships, but we consider them battlecruisers. They only carry two 280mm main guns. They also carry the same 150mm casemate guns and a couple of 88s in the superstructure. But they are, with 17,500 tons displacement, smaller than the Nassaus. They still have the same speed and have a relatively good survivability, but are nowhere near as well armored as the Nassaus. And as such, probably more suited towards commerce raiding and similar things. We've got a second battlecruiser design that is currently in service, the von der Tann class of ships with 21,300 tons, relatively large. They are significantly faster than the Nassaus, and their armor is, however, not quite as thick. They have better deck armor than the old Nassau class battleships. Their guns are as well 280mm mains. We've got two center lines fore and aft, and we've got two guns en echelon. We do have 152mm secondaries in the casemates and 88mm guns as well as is standard. These ships are faster, but not quite well armored, and will also probably be more suited towards commerce raiders than being able to fight in the main battle line against, say, the British. Following that up with the Blücher class of heavy cruisers, 14,000 tons displacement, and not quite as fast as the von der Tanns, but they are also relatively well built, and their armor is, for a cruiser, not terrible, but they're definitely, now we start looking at ships that are better suited towards dominating far reaches. The range, however, on the Blüchers is not as much as we would like it to be. It could be better, but this is what we'll have to deal with enemy light cruisers and similar things. The main guns are 220mm in caliber. We've got the same layout as on the Nassaus. We've got two guns, one turret fore and aft, and we've got a set of wing turrets. And then we have some 150mm casemates and 88mm guns to work with. Together with the Blüchers, the Dresden class of light cruisers will probably be suited towards assisting with convoy raiding and with keeping our colonies safe. They are not quite as fast as the von der Tann class of battlecruisers, but relatively quick. They are nowhere near as well armored though as their contemporaries. The belt is relatively thin, and the guns are mostly 105mm plus some 52mm, smaller 52mm guns, all in single mounts. These ships have some torpedoes, but they are, as well as the rest of the fleet, relatively dated from the last decade. Lastly, we have the S-138 class of small destroyers that have been commissioned. These destroyers displace 750 tons, and their main armament consists of 3 torpedo launchers, as well as a set of 88mm guns, one aft and one forward, that they can use to defend themselves against other destroyers and maybe set a fire or two. But in general, the torpedo armament is where these ships are sitting at. All in all, if we're looking at the designs that have been built in the last decade, it becomes clear relatively quickly that naval technology is rapidly evolving, and we're going to have to build some new ships in order to catch up and keep up with our adversaries, because a lot of these ships are not going to be capable of holding their own against more modern dreadnoughts. Reviewing the ships that are currently in service, we have 8 Deutschland-class battlecruisers. We have 4 Nassau-class battleships, 4 of the von der Tann class of battlecruisers. We have 4 Blüchers, 4 Dresdens, and a set of destroyers that we can work with. We also have a small group of experimental submarines that are currently being deployed. Submarine warfare is considered by many just a newfangled thing that will never catch on against an actual battleship. But there are others of the Jeune École that are thinking that smaller ships armed with torpedoes and submarines might be capable of dealing with capital ships and posing a new threat to capital ships that we have not seen before. I have requested the documents from our research bureau, and the naval designers have informed me that the next breakthrough to come out would be a new rangefinder, mostly suited towards long-range gunnery, which we are, to be honest, not particularly good at. And the other thing that they're working on is a new doctrine of how we can train our crews to be more efficient. Training of our crews and quality of our ships is what is going to keep us on edge, give us an edge against our adversaries. Looking at the main theater, I've requested the maps of potential escalation of hostilities. Our fleet is currently deployed mostly in the Baltic Seas for training purposes. We have 4 battleships stationed in Kiel. We've got 1 battleship and a heavy cruiser stationed in Danzig, and another 4 battleships and 2 battlecruisers stationed in Pillau. We will, once these ships are trained, transfer them over to the North Sea. The Baltic is an area in which we can retreat, rest, train, and generally improve our capabilities. As the situation remains tense, both with the Empire of Great Britain and France, we might have to fight a naval war against both of them, as well as a land war on the continents. Now we have capable generals who I am not going to question or give advice to on how they are going to conduct their land operations. My task is simply going to be to ensure that our transport routes stay open, that the British are not going to be capable of locking us in and blockading us in the North Sea and strangulating the German economy. We have parts of our fleet in the South Pacific along our African possessions. We've got the York and one of our destroyers in the north here. We have the Hessen, which is a Deutschland class stationed in Douala in Cameroon, and we have the Helgoland, which is another Deutschland class currently docking in Southwest Africa. We also have some colonial possessions in East Africa, where we have a couple of destroyers stationed around Tanga and Dar es Salaam. These ships are currently on training routes and are busy showing the flag in our colonies to convince the locals that the German Empire is perfectly capable of protecting them. In addition, we are holding the port of Tsingtao in China, and we have a sizable amount of ships there, with the Gneisenau and the Bayern. Gneisenau being a Nassau-class battleship and the Bayern being a von der Tann-class battlecruiser, as well as 2 heavy cruisers, 3 light cruisers, and a destroyer. We're using slightly more port facilities than we can support here, but again, this is to show our flag in the Yellow Sea and make sure that the glory of the German Empire is known throughout the world. We do have a couple more smaller ships on patrol duty in the Pacific, and just generally to keep an eye on our colonial possessions there. I have received the books from the finance department. We currently have 900 million Reichsmark in naval fund, which is going to be sufficient to, well, do some modernization on the fleet, which is what's sorely be necessary. We're going to be starting to improve our shipyard to by 15,000 tons, just so we can start considering larger ships. We're also going to increase our transport capacity to ensure that the German economy can flourish. And we are going to put money into training of our crews, which is essential, as well as into research and technology. But we will have to modernize our fleet somewhat before it comes to conflict with the British. And that is what we're going to be looking at next. The very first task that we're going to investigate is to see if we can get a more modern dreadnought battleship that can stand up to the latest that the British and the French are designing. So, going to the design bureau, we'll see what we can build. Hello everyone, and welcome to Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. This is all new and interesting, and I am not an expert. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm not an expert at any of this, but I'm excited to try and bring you some good stories of naval combat in the 1910s. First of all, we are designing ourselves a new battleship. Now we have a bunch, either a battleship or a battlecruiser, but we'll have to see. So we can either. I would like something that is relatively quick. Because we do have a fair amount of colonies that we need to deal with. So let's have a look at the hulls that we have currently available. We've got the Dreadnought 3 hull, which is the most modern battleship hull that we can build. This goes up to 34,000 tons displacement, which is something we can actually build with our current shipyards. We also have the Battlecruiser 3, which would be this design, which is significantly faster, but only goes up to 31,000 tons of displacement. So that's something we're going to have to see what we can do with. Now I am somewhat inclined not to go for the battleship. The reason being that the maximum optimal speed on this is 22 knots, which is dreadfully slow. I mean, if the British are compliant and are happy to engage us at in a ships of the line fleet action, then this is all good. But the battle cruisers can go up to 28 knots. So these ships are very capable of either disengaging or chasing down ships where that we can fight and effectively allow us to dominate the engagement. So we're not going to use Königsberg for that name. What are we going to call these? We're going to call these, and yes, by the way, if you haven't noticed, this is not going to be a historical run because there's no such thing. So we're going to call this the Frankfurt class of battleships. Actually, battlecruisers, we could call it the Derfflinger. Yeah, let's go with that. We call it the Derfflinger class of battlecruisers. There we go. Not going to look anything like the historical class of Derfflingers. So let's begin by looking around a bit and seeing how we can make these things happen. So we want standard crew quarters, and I'm going to explain my understanding of this as we go, which isn't perfect. We have the choice between coal-fired boilers or semi-oil fired boilers, where we can use some oil to increase the performance. This is giving us 1,000 tons in weight back, which we don't have to use for coal storage. In return, fuel is going to be more expensive, but boilers are going to be lighter, and we have less vibrations on the engines, and we have a little bit less resistance and flotation, which makes sense because coal is traditionally used to, in coal bunkers, which actually act as armor to a little degree. But we'll start with that. We can actually get turbine engines in, which are a lot more efficient than the multi-expansion steam engines, and are further going to reduce the weight that we're going to be using for propulsion, which is good. We can also get some auxiliary engines in, and I'm just going to start throwing things in that I'm really interested in. So if we throw some auxiliary diesel engines in there, that will give us a better that'll assist with damage control. So we get better ship repairs, better pumping of flooding out of flooded compartments and all these kind of things, because even if the main engines get damaged, the auxiliary engines keep the pumps going. We can get a better propeller shaft, which assists with acceleration and turning rate, and helps also with engine repairs, but does come at the cost of weight and money. So we'll have to keep an eye on the cost. The nacelles were at 23 million, but we're already at 21. We haven't put anything on it yet, so we might reduce that as we go later. We can. I am thinking of using a balanced rudder here, because that is that while we can't turn as well, it helps with acceleration and everything else. So we'll switch that over. We can go for a hydraulic or even for an electric steering gear, but electric steering gear is a relatively new technology, so that will put in some ship flaws, which we don't really want to touch just yet on. So let's see how bad that is. It's 120 tons. We'll put it in for now. Okay, armor. We're still sitting on the old Harvey armor. We obviously want the most modern armor that we can get, which is Krupp 3, so homogeneous armor, which means it's homogeneous steel with face-hardened plates. So this is the most modern we can get, which again drops our weight because that armor is actually more lightweight than what we were putting in for the same amount. We can put some torpedo protection in here, which is probably not a terrible idea. So if we put enhanced torpedo bulkheads around the side, that is going to cost us another 900 tons of weight. But we'll work along this. We'll start putting things in first, and then we'll reduce them as we go. We are going to have a double bottom hull, and we're going to go with reinforced bulkheads. All this is good to reduce the chance of fires or flash fires, which is not good. That's something we need to do something about. Flash fires are bad. We definitely want flooding protection, so we can put a system in place to counter flood if necessary, and to keep the balance of the ship, which is essential to make a gun platform. And we can get a second layer of underwater protected decks in. So we're going to do that as well. So we're already back up at 17,000 tons. But before we do anything else, let's begin putting putting some things onto this battle cruiser. We are going to need a main tower. The main tower is there for spotting and obviously for our gun directors. And apparently we can put that. Okay, we can put it down here, or we can put it up there. Let's begin with up there and see what that looks like. It's a bit far forward for my taste. I think I might actually put that down here. So there. Let's see how that's going to work. We're going to get a rear tower that is going to go somewhere in the back here, and then we'll do away with this whole wing turret layout, because that is pretty unfavorable. Can I say so? And we're gonna have to do something about our engine. So we're gonna need funnel capacity, but we will see. Funnels have the problem that they're causing smoke, and smoke causes smoke interference, and smoke interference causes problems with spotting, because if you're in the gun using the gun director and you get smoke from the funnels on it, then that's not a good thing. So let's see what it would look like. So that would be 60%. We can get a very large center. We can get a crane funnel, centerline funnels, or one of these. Where the funnels obviously also increase our target signature. So they go pretty much alongside with the smoke interference. We're just getting better damage control out of the crane funnel, apparently. So, but I'm not particularly keen on the size of that thing. Now that looks relatively decent. It's got the cranes on it, so we can put 2 of those in the middle and see what that is looking like. So that looks good from the engine efficiency. We might be able to get away with 1 if we're not using natural boilers, but no, we could go up to forced boilers, but that's going to put That's going to get us above 20,000, 32 million. So what does it look like if I'm just going to do another funnel and instead go back to natural boilers? 17,000 tons, 28 million. So 1728 and less space, or 2032 but more space. No, I'm going to stick with the natural boilers to be fair and just put a second funnel on here. That's better. All right, let's see what we can put in here gun-wise. Now it gets interesting. Main guns. We've got centerline guns. Now here it's important to look at the sort of revision level. We've got Mark III 229mm guns. We've got Mark III 254mm guns. We have Mark III 279s. We've got Mark III 305s, and we've got Mark III 330s. So obviously, the higher the caliber, the longer the reload, but the more the kaboom. So I am tempted to go with the 305s for now. That is a slightly better, so it's a 72-second reload versus a 78-second reload. But if you look at the hit chance, it's difficult for me to show you that because I can't move the cursor, because then the tooltip goes away. But if you look at the hit chances, reasonably we're going to be fighting below distances below 10,000 meters. 10,000 meters, so below 10 kilometers. And I think that is sufficient amount of penetration for that range. So let's see if we can. Oops, I'm in the smoke there. Let's see if we can get smoke firing penalty. So we can get one forward. We can definitely get an aft turret. And then the first thing we're going to be doing is changing these. No, 305 is actually fine. Then we can get a barbette, and we've got plenty of those. Now, standard superimposed or medium superimposed. Let's try the medium superimposed. These are 94 tons. These are 125 tons. Yeah, these are a little bit smaller, so less size on the barbettes. Let's put one here and see if we can put one up there. And then see if we can fit another turret on these. I think we can, actually. So that would give us... Now, one problem that we're having here is forward weight offset. As you can see, the ship's a bit bow heavy. Because obviously we've got guns here, and we've got the superstructure forward. Now, could we... Well, first of all, we can move the engine back. Let's see if we move the engine back towards the rear. How much of a difference that's making. Because if I'm moving the funnels, obviously the engines are there where the funnels is, so the engines get moved further back. The other problem, obviously, that we're having, the longer we make the citadel, the more armor we have to throw into that. We're still on maximum bulkheads and at 31,000 tons displacement. Now, we don't need to be on 31,000 tons displacement. But can I move the... Yes, I can move this turret, the front tower, a little bit to the rear, but it starts looking a bit silly, to be honest. So let's just move the barbette as far back as we possibly can without it actually hanging over the rail here. That's probably as far as we can get that back. How would that look like if I move it one further? That's okay. That's okay. I'll accept that. And then... I mean, if we're okay to compromise a little bit on the firing arcs, we can put that a little bit back as well. We still have a forward weight offset. So what if we don't make this ship 31,000 tons? What if we make this only 30,000 tons? When is it going to shrink? It would be... Is it going to get shorter? No, it's just going to start looking weird. Okay, let's go back to 30,000 tons displacement. We've got some space here in the middle, so we might be able to do a Q turret here. So what would that look like? Can we fit 2 in there? We can fit 1 in there, and I'm actually not totally unhappy with that. So that would give us 10 guns of a relatively decent broadside. The problem still is obviously our forward weight offset, but we might be able to put a couple of casement guns in there. That would give us a relatively decent broadside. 23,000 tons, 36 million. What if we put... Okay, we're going to have to remove the gun first. What if we put the... No, remove that. What if we put the turret over here to make it look a little less silly? And take one of the guns and put it here. It's the same almost, so we could actually do that, honestly. We can put the guns in the... Okay, now I would like that to be pointed forwards, please. Nope, please point the gun forwards, not rearwards. Yeah, point it forwards. How far can we go before we start interfering? I think that's about as far as we can go. So we can point the gun forward. And then we have the funnels somewhat apart and the gun in the center line. That does not look completely stupid, but we do have still a forward weight offset that is quite substantial. Actually, 21. I think that was less bad before. So if we compress the engine towards the stern, we only had 13, and if we put the gun in here, yeah, this is better in terms of weight offset. So I think we're going to have to either that, or we're going to put a bunch of secondaries in the center line here. But is a bit weird. Is a bit weird. Yeah, what are we going to do with this space here? I mean, we could move the whole turret setup more in towards the middle, honestly, and just get that all moved forward a little bit. That'll save us some weight because we don't have to because we're shrinking the belt armor now, and get these guys moved up here. That does save us a little bit of weight, but the forward weight offset's even worse now, so obviously it's not a great idea. This hull is a bit questionable, if I'm going to be honest. The other alternative would be to only put one gun forwards, but then if we're giving chase, we don't really have an awful lot of alternatives. So yeah, forward weight offset is really high, even if we move the turrets a little bit. Getting a balanced ship out of something that has kind of this weird foxhole here with the two gun turrets. What if we only put one? How would that look like? Okay, that starts looking better. So now if we start moving these back again, and you go back there, could we fit another gun under there? Maybe. Let's see. Can we can reverse the tower a little bit more, such that the forward gun turret sits, or the turret ring sits here. That is okay. I'm happy with that. And now we're actually relatively neutral on weight, but now we only have 6 guns, which is not what I want. But we can push this back again and bring back our Q turret for a total of 8 guns. Still look a bit weird though. So we get another one of those and have that forward facing here, there. That would kind of work. We're actually, we can move this forward now because we are aft weight unbalanced. So we can shorten the whole ship a little bit, move the funnels more into the center. Actually, this funnel is now interfering with this gun, so just about there. Nope, a bit further back there. Yeah, that's good enough. Move the funnels and move the whole aft superstructure a bit forward, and also shorten the main belt a little bit more. Now we got forward weight offset there. Now it starts looking better. Okay, we're at 21,000 tons because we've shortened the main belt. We've got 8 guns, and we don't have this massive structure in the forecastle. That is to say, though, we don't really have the same amount of firepower. Now, what we can do, however, is starting to put some casemates in here. So let's get these 150s. 150mm single barrel casemate guns. do I want those, or do I want the secondaries? Let's have a look, because we do have secondary gun towers. These are Mark IIs, 56 tons, with an effective range of, well, they can't really hit anything at 5 kilometers maybe. The casemates are 36 tons, so they're significantly, but these are single barrel. So 36 tons, and these are 56 tons. These are actually more. If we do this with twin barrels, these gun turrets are actually better than the casemates. So let's see if we can place a couple of these guys. We can get one pair of turrets here, and this is going to interfere with that that turret there. So we can get another set here, and we can get another set there. Now this turret this is kind of getting in the way of the firing arcs of this turret, so maybe we don't want to do that. The center turret here, unless we put it on a barbette, honestly. Well, let's see what that looks like. So if we copy the barbette over, can't mount the barbette here. Okay, never mind then. So give me my center turret back, my Q turret. Okay, we'll place the Q turret here. It's got decent. Maybe we can place these a little bit closer together and fit another one of them there. How does that look? Yeah, that doesn't get in the way of the turret much. And that means we've got 1250 millimeter secondaries in there. Okay, we want a couple of 88s as well. So let's see if we can fit. Actually, let's see if we can fit these little casemates somewhere. We can fit a couple on the superstructure, to be honest. And there and there. And we can probably fit these in the side here. How much weight do we have left? Almost 8,000 tons. We haven't done the armor yet, but we've got four weight offsets, so we can fit a couple into these side-mounted casemates here. And now we are. Why we have a starboard weight offset? Oh, that's because this turret has goofed up. Okay. So copy that, and that's where I want it to be. Okay, forward weight, negligible forward weight offset, and we're starting to have a decent amount of guns on this thing. So what do we have right now? We've got 8 305s, we've got 12 150s, and 18 76. I'm gonna fix this briefly. So we want -2 millimeter on the 150s. Oh, I can't do that. Okay, but I can do +12 on these to make them 88s. Okay, we are at almost 23,000 tons. We haven't done the armor yet. We are gonna need to up armor this ship significantly. We've still got a little bit of a forward weight offset. Maybe I can fix this with moving the turrets around a little bit. Well, it's as close to balanced, honestly, as it gets. So, what are we looking at? We are looking at a relatively strange layout. The Q turret is a bit. She's going to need to give some broadside to make things happen. The barbette can fire. The gun on the barbette can easily fire across, over the 150 one, the 150 mil here. So let's have a look at barrel length. What do we currently have? These are 46 calibers length, and these are 44s. Can we make the 150s a bit longer? Longer barrels means more accuracy, but slower rate of fire. They're currently got a 30-second reload. So let's see what we can do with these. Obviously, they also get heavier. If we put these on, that's a 46. Can we get 45? Yeah, there we've got 45 barrel length on these. I'm not really concerned about the 88s. They can be whatever they want to be. We're not going to stick torpedoes on this thing, because that's just... I mean, we could do underwater torpedo launches. We have mounts here. But I mean, maybe. They are brawlers. What kind of torpedoes do we have? We've got 18-inch torpedoes, 457 millimeter. Not great. Not great. Let's hold off on that decision for later. So the next thing we're going to need to do is put a rangefinder on this. And here comes kind of the Here comes the decision if we want a coincidence rangefinder, which gives us better aiming speed and better accuracy, or a stereoscopic rangefinder, which would be more historically accurate, but which gives us better long range accuracy. Now, I'm not seeing these ships as particularly good at long range gunnery, and the coincidence rangefinder is also more lightweight. So we're going to be using this. We can put an advanced radio in there, which is going to cost us in weight again. So let's have a look. Let's have a look at the ammunition that we're going to be sailing. We are definitely going to be we're going to be firing armor piercing, I would assume, with the main guns, but I'm going to keep the standard ratio in there. What are my main guns capable of? So let's have a look at that one then. So I see. Maybe I can show it. I can show it here better. You can. It's a little larger, so you can see it better. So these things, armor penetration. How does armor penetration work? It's all normalized on standard iron armor. So we will have to take the armor quality into account. So these things at ranges of 10,000 meters, where they can actually hit anything, can penetrate 655 millimeter of belt and 165 millimeter of deck. The high explosive can do 67 and 16.9 equivalent, but that means the high explosive is perfectly capable of blowing destroyers out of the water. Light cruisers maybe not so much. So I'm thinking increased armor piercing. Now we do have nose fused high explosive shells for more for increased damage and setting fire. So if we're firing at a very angled target, then that's what we're going to be using. The alternative would be to go for very powerful high explosive shells, but I'm not quite feeling that. Now we are on semi-armor piercing shells. I'm going to put that to cap ballistic, which is going to give us much more penetration, but going to make it more difficult with the angles of actually hitting something. So what is that looking like now? With that, we can, at 10,000 meters now, penetrate 1,500 millimeters of belt and almost 400 millimeters of deck before angling and armor quality, obviously. But that is a lot of firepower, so that's what we're going to go with. We can use ballistite for propellant or cordite. Cordite has a bit of a problem with exploding historically, and so I might be sticking with ballistite and TNT. TNT is relatively safe. Picric acid or dunite are doing more damage on the HE shells, but yeah, they also tend to blow up. So I'm kind of happy with that. We could go for heavy shells, which is going to cost do more damage, but it's going to cost us reload and accuracy. So I might just stick with standard shells here. We could get the turret traverse up, but at a cost of ship flaws. So we've currently got hydraulic turrets. This would increase the engine weight, but also increase the turret traverse speed. And that would get into electrical is kind of too advanced still. So that's like 200 tons extra, but a better turret traverse speed. Alternatively, we could look at enhanced reloading, which is giving us 10% of reload, but is reducing the traverse and increasing the gun weight. So that would get us to 20. Ooh, that's 400 tons. And we could counter that with the advanced hydraulic. Okay, let's go with it for now, and let's see what that's looking like. We still have to put barbette armor in here. So we're going to get thick barbettes, as thick as we can get them. Now we're almost at 24,000 tons, but we've still got some weight to play with. And we now, if we're looking at our defense stats, where are we? Sorry, I'm just gonna have to find it. So smoke interference, we are losing a bit of accuracy, 5%, but there's not an awful lot we can do about that, unless we go down to one turret and throw a lot of weight and to make it work better. Where was the? There we go. So we've got fire chance -15, flooding chance is great. Flash fire detonation chance is unfortunately still there, but this is not something we can do an awful lot about. We've got the best barbette in that we can, so that's not none, that one. Okay. Right, now armor plating. So 305s at 10 kilometers, 1500 millimeters of penetration. So we have an armor quality of 115. So we would have to have 750 millimeter of belt armor. That's not something we're going to be achieving. So our immunity zone is going to be a lot smaller compared with these guns here. And we'll have to obviously work with angling and similar mechanics. So let's see what we can get in here. Let's begin with a 350 millimeters of belt. And now it's obviously a question of weight. We probably want a forward belt and aft belt are a little bit less well armored. Let's go with 150 mils each, which is obviously going to change our weight again because they have different sizes. But we can use the armor to balance that out. And what's our deck penetration? Almost 400 millimeter at 10,000 meters. So that would be a very, very thick deck. Let's try a 150 millimeter deck. Let's see how that goes. And the foredeck is, let's give it 100, slightly less well protected. And let's give the aft deck 100 as well. Let's go with 350 millimeter on the conning tower. Superstructure should be just kind of against small arms fire, more or less. So, well, even these things can penetrate 100 millimeter of armor. So let's see. Let's give us 20 millimeter of superstructure. It's more like a splinter protection at this point. The guns, they will get the turret sides, including the turret face, which I can't do separately. 350 millimeters, and can we give them 150 on the turret roof? And I would like the thickest barbette that you can possibly find in here. Can we do 350 on the barbette? We can actually. The 150s are gonna get 150 and 100 mils on top, and we give them 150 on the barbettes as well. We do not want them to explode. We can actually just do 100. That's the thickest barbette we can do for those. Not so much concerned about the 88 casements. They can get 100 millimeter of side armor. That I'm okay with. We were done with the length, so let's see how much we can throw into the citadel armor. 90 millimeter of deck and 175 millimeter of belt, and we've still got space. We do have a little bit of a forward weight offset, so let's increase the aft belt to compensate that. Okay, 160 millimeter aft belt. We've still got a bit of tonnage left. We don't have to completely go overboard. I don't think I forgot anything, but we can get the speed up a little bit. And what was the design speed on that hull? 28 knots. So let's see what that looks like. So can we get 27 knots? Yes, we can without much problems. Can we get 28 knots? Engine efficiency is now starting to suffer, unfortunately. Yeah, I didn't want to go off the natural boilers because of the double funnels. I could, so if I go for induced boilers and then remove one funnel, what is that looking like? Well, first of all, we've got a forward weight offset, and now engine's efficiency is crap again. So we could go up to force, but it's getting really expensive and it's not really working that well. Okay, never mind. Put my funnel back here. We're going with natural aspirated funnels. And now I'm having an aft weight offset, so I can balance that out with the armor. But 28 knots, we're at 50 million. The ship's starting to get really expensive. What was 27 looking like? 27 looks okay engine efficiency wise. We've got a good range here. I think I'm okay with 16,000 kilometers. That is a decent range. So let's see if we can throw a little bit more armor in there. We've still got an aft weight offset, so let's make the forward belt a little bit thicker. Okay, 155 millimeter it is. And let's see if we can throw a bit more into the main belt. And we can probably throw a bit more into the main deck. I'm happy to go to 29,000 tons. That leaves us plenty of space for refits. So let's do 165 millimeter main deck, 360 millimeter main belt with an armor quality of 115%. And we have ourselves a battlecruiser, which does look a bit funky with that Q turret in the middle there. But I would say I am somewhat happy with this ship. That is the Derfflinger class of battlecruiser. Obviously, no relation to the historical Derfflinger class. But also, obviously, exceedingly more expensive than the older ships. They cost more than twice as much as a Nassau class battleship. So we're going to save that design. And then the second thing that I'm going to design today, and yeah, this is going to be a little bit slow going, but we will get into battles with these ships. Don't worry, we're not at war yet, so things are going to happen. The second thing that I want to design is a proper destroyer, because the S-138 class is a bit meh. We're also going to need a proper light cruiser, but I don't think we can. Let's have a very brief look. Do we have? Could we? No, we've got 150 millimeter single barrel. So nah, that's not what I'm after. Let's go for the destroyer hull, a destroyer 1, and see what torpedo tech we have. So we've got twin deck torpedo launchers. Maybe not yet. Maybe I'll hold off on the destroyers. And I'm just going to delete that design for now. So there's our battle cruiser. I think we're going to start building a couple of these. How about heavy cruisers? We can build large armored cruisers with 14,000 tons max displacement. But I think they're not going to be all that much better than the Blücher. I mean, the Blücher is 14,000 tons. We could build the Lützow, and 40,000 tons is the biggest that we can build on this. It's a large armored cruiser. What's the design speed on these things? 25 knots. That's actually not that dreadful. So if I wanted this at 25 knots, let's see what that would look like. We'll just have a quick look around and see what we can. I'm not yet sure if I want this. I'm just going to quickly put some things on there. And I would like to have 203 millimeter twin-barreled guns. We have again the slightly weird forward turret thing, but we can put a. Can we put that one here? No. That's massive. That's massive. And that's massive. Can't I? I can fit a barbette in the rear, but I can't fit a barbette in the front, and that's probably too tiny. Okay, so we're single turret forward because we can't fit any barbettes up forward there, which I'm not super happy about, because that means I would like to have. Why can I not fit any barbettes? Can't fit that, or that in there. Yep, no mounts. I can fit them in the middle, but that's about it. So that would have to have a rear turret, and then can we fit these on these barbettes? Let's quickly try. Nope, that doesn't fit. So that's too small. That was a medium barbette. So medium superimposed. So we gotta go with this chunky spot, or this weird looking barbette here, which is kind of an extension of our. I mean, it almost matches actually. We could fit that here, but I would have to. I mean, I could just fit a second gun turret here, which has terrible firing arcs. That would work if I moved the superstructure a little bit back. But that's 8 guns. But I really don't like the fact that I don't have super firing guns forward, especially for a cruiser. yeah, I think I'm not super happy about this design. So I think we're gonna leave that be for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to get some of the Derflinger class of battlecruisers and see if they can, because these things should be significantly better armored than the Nassaus. Yeah, the Nassau's got armor up to 300 millimeters with 100% armor quality, and these things got up to 360 mils with 115% armor quality. So these should be a little bit better. And there we go. So let's get those building. So let's get out of here, and we will commission a couple of new ships. After some reviews of the designs that were available, we have decided to build 4 new Derflinger class battlecruisers. We're building Derflinger herself, Hansa, Fürst Bismarck, and Lützow, and they will be constructed in the dockyards at Wilhelmshaven at a cost of 2 million Reichsmark per month. It's going to take 19 months to construct them, but hopefully after that we will have a somewhat more modern fleet that might be able to stand up against our opponents. We will also be looking into refitting some of the existing ships and improving them if we see that they might be worth it. But for now, that shall be the end of the first episode. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time for more ship design. It's going to be a couple of episodes before we're actually going to start fighting, because we're not at war, right? So right now we're just managing the fleet. We're going to have to move some ships around, get everything sorted out, settled up, and just generally ready for the campaign. Thanks everyone, I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time for more Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. Bye bye.